All right, welcome to our third annual State of the Water. We'll kind of hold a couple seconds here just to make sure some people get in. I see participants are joining. Number is sitting at 15, is not rising. Well, dropping. All right, I think we'll get going. Welcome to the third annual State of the Water, Truckee Meadows Water Authority. My name is Andy Gephardt, and Director of Distribution Services. And we're excited to give you this update. After the last couple of years, this one will be a little bit more pleasant, a little bit more optimistic than what we've given in the last couple of years. We have Bill Hauk here, Water Supply Supervisor. Bill will be going through the presentation. A little history on why we started this. As you all know, we get a lot of regional information in our area, things that are happening in California, things that are happening in Southern Nevada. They might just be happening all over the West, but every water system is different. Every water system is unique. The trials and tribulations of one might not affect another. And so we were having a hard time getting the message out, that we're a little different. We're a little unique. We're on a very small water system, very few users of that river. And we were struggling to get the information out that what is a drought, what a drought means to us, and what's water supply mean. And we're almost always in a drought here in the West. We get 7 inches of rain a year. By definition, anything under 10 inches is a desert. So, by definition, we live in a desert. So we always have dry years, and we're, every now and then interspersed with some wet years. So we look at it a little differently. We don't worry about the word drought. We worry more about our water supply. How are we set to supply the water for the community? And with that in mind, as we started communicating this message, we really started trying to get to you folks early in the year, kind of setting the stage for the summer to come, setting the stage for what's happened in the winter. And it seems to have helped the narrative. It seems to have helped. More and more people are understanding that our system is a little bit different. And, if we can convince 10 people and they can convince 10 people, then pretty soon the message gets across, and it's a lot easier to convey the successes and the concerns of the organization as it happens. So we're going to start with that in a little housekeeping. If you have a question, at the bottom of your screen is a Q&A. Please enter your question in the Q&A, and we will answer those questions at the time that seems appropriate. We also, we know we put out a press release with City of Reno and Washoe County this morning, talking a little bit about PFAS. That has really nothing to do with this report today. However, we do know that somebody might have a question for it. So if you do have a question on PFAS, on that press release about the water quality, drinking water quality, we do have Will Raymond, who is our Director of Operations and Water Quality, and he will answer those questions at the end of the presentation. So hold those questions till the very end if you can, or if you will. And with that, without any further ado, I'll give you Bill, and he'll start with his presentation.
Thanks, Andy. Welcome to our 2023 State of the Water water supply update. We all know it was a big winter, but what you may not know is what that means for our water supply, and that's what we're here to talk about today. But before we jump into the meat of the presentation, I want to give you a few quick facts and figures on a little on TMWA. So you may not know that we serve close to 500,000 people here in the Reno-Sparks area. Our current demand last year was 86,000 acre feet. Our peak day last year in July, the day of the highest demand was 144 million gallons we produced to meet that demand. Now that's about 4 times the average wintertime demand. We have 3 surface water treatment plants here at TMWA. They provide about 80 to 85% of our total supply on an annual basis. 2 of those divert water directly from the Truckee River. Those are our Chalk Bluff and Glendale water treatment plants. And our newest surface water treatment plant, the Mount Rose water treatment plant from Mount Rose Highway, takes water from Whites Creek to serve homes up on the Mount Rose fan area. We have 80 plus production wells, which provide 15 to 20% of our total supply. And we also have a groundwater importation project called the Fish Springs Ranch Project, which brings groundwater up to 8,000 acre feet a year into the North Valleys to meet customer demand. We also do what's called aquifer storage and recovery, where in the wintertime during our low demand months, we take treated surface water and inject that into the groundwater through our production wells to improve the health of the water table. And you may not know that we also have, right now we have 3 operating hydroelectric power plants. And in a normal year, we generate about $3.5 million in revenue from those plants. Our sources of supply are managed integratively or collectively together as a whole. Surface water rights, we have about 118,000 acre feet of surface water rights right now. Plus we have upstream reservoir storage. We own the first 40 cubic feet per second on the Truckee River. We own all the water rights to Hunter Creek. We've converted so far about 80,000 acre feet of once agricultural rights into what are called M&I rights, municipal and industrial, to serve our customers. Last year, we diverted 78,000 acre feet of surface water. The reservoir storage upstream, TMWA owns and operates Donner and Independence Lakes. Together when full, that's about 27,000 acre feet of storage. Plus we have what's called TROA. TROA is the Truckee River Operating Agreement. It's a new agreement which dictates how the Truckee River system's operated. And that went into effect in December 2015. Now under TROA, we have the right to store anywhere from 9,500 to over 50,000 acre feet of storage in any of the 4 upstream federally owned reservoirs, Lake Tahoe, Boca, Stampede, or Prosser reservoirs. And our groundwater supply, those 80 plus production wells we have right now, over 42,000 acre feet of rights available. But in a typical year, we only pump about 10,000 like we did last year. And in addition to the active ASR that I mentioned, we also do what's called passive aquifer storage and recovery. And that's where we rest groundwater production wells in the wintertime to improve groundwater levels. So here we're going to go right into the meat of our presentation here. So everyone knows that it was a big winter. It was a massive winter, to quote my friend Jeff Anderson. We had tremendous snowpack at the end of February, and that was followed up by record precipitation in the month of March. April 1st snowpack measurements were at an all-time high. Record amounts of water in the snowpack measured on April 1st in the Truckee River Basin actually set an all-time record. In fact, there were many records broken all throughout the Sierra Nevada, some records going back 80, 100 plus years. It was really ended up being a tremendous snowpack year for the region. The official snowpack number for the Lake Tahoe Basin on April 1st was 242% of normal. Now, this is a real interesting graph from the NRCS. It shows on a daily time step how snowpack, or the water equivalent within the snowpack, changed from day to day from the beginning of the water year, which is October 1st. And 2023 is the black line, and it clearly blew right past 2017, which was a really big snowpack year. And on April 1st, we're actually, as I mentioned, higher than we were in 1983. Now, 1983 was our largest snowpack year on record for the whole system. But as of April 1st, 2023 was actually bigger than 1983. 83 we're not going to catch it now, but 83 was the region's biggest snowpack year, only because it continued to build snowpack into May. But this year, 2023, set an all-time record for snow water equivalent in the Lake Tahoe Basin. And in fact, right now, even with the onset of the warm weather, much of the upper elevation snowpack hasn't even begun to run off yet. To put that in perspective, there's still 71 inches of water in the snowpack at the Mount Rose summit. That's a lot of water. As of yesterday, these numbers are current as of yesterday. The median snowpack in Lake Tahoe was 291% of normal, 274% of normal in the Truckee Basin. And the farther south you go, the snowpack numbers are only better in the Carson and Walker Basins. And you can see all throughout northern Nevada, the snowpack is well above average. If you look at the Humboldt Basin there, it's really incredible for this time of year, 330% of median. This is a bar graph showing April 1st Lake Tahoe Basin snowpack over the last 40 years. And really just what I'm trying to illustrate here is the tremendous variability from year to year. We have normal years, big years, and dry years. Now, the big snowpack leads to big stream flow runoff, and really impressive runoff projections this year. Lake Tahoe is showing 276% of normal runoff, which equates to about a 3.2 foot rise at Lake Tahoe. This is between April and its peak in July. And the same theme for the Truckee River at Fairhead. It looks like a 271% of normal runoff for the Truckee River, which is extremely impressive. So it's going to be a really big runoff year, really big. This is a hydrograph of Lake Tahoe elevation over the last 12 months. And the take-home message here, as you can see, that Lake Tahoe was basically draining since last June. It hit its low, bottomed out around December 1st this year. But since then, over the winter, the lake has gained about 3.1 feet of storage just due to storms and rainfall. And the lake is projected to rise about another 3 feet between before it's done in July. So it's not projected to completely fill, but it's gonna make a significant recovery and come very close to filling. So. And you can also see on here again, the tremendous variability from year to year, and that's due to the runoff from the snowpack. But you can see for 3 years in a row in 2017, 2018, and 19, Lake Tahoe filled 3 years in a row, but the last 3 years it's been kind of draining. But this is a huge recovery year once again for Lake Tahoe. This is a map of the Truckee River system, and basically the 4 federal reservoirs, 3 in particular, Stampede, Boca, and Prosser reservoirs, are all going to fill and spill this year. And Tumwa's privately owned reservoirs, Independence and Donner Lakes, are also going to fill and spill this year. And as I mentioned, Lake Tahoe will come very close to filling. So basically, we're resetting the entire system upstream. And as I mentioned before, the Truckee River provides about 85 to 90% of the drinking water for this region for our customers. Interesting to note, Lahontan Reservoir off the Carson River there. The runoff forecast is so big on the Carson River that they have been dumping about 5,000 acre feet a day, or 2,500 cubic feet per second into canals and out into the desert for the last month, just to make room for the water that's expected to come. This is a hydrograph of the Truckee River at California-Nevada state line. And really here again, I'm just trying to illustrate the tremendous variability from year to year. You can see the last 3 years were kind of low runoff years, but not this year. We're due for a very big runoff year. And it's just welcome all around. So you may be asking yourself, a big runoff year, full reservoirs upstream, are we still in a drought? The answer to that is no. A drought situation, according to the Truckee River Operating Agreement, or TROA, is a situation where the required rate of flow at the California-Nevada state line is projected to fall short prior to October 31st, or the elevation of Lake Tahoe is supposed to be below the elevation 6223.5 by November 15th. Neither of those criteria this year will be met, as full river flows are forecasted through the end of the year. And at November 15th, the elevation of Tahoe is projected to be 6227.4, 4.4 feet above the natural rim. So a non-drought designation took effect on April 15th. So not only under TROA, but according to the U.S. Drought Monitor, this region is no longer in a drought. if you look at the map, you can see California and Nevada there, and quickly you can see that most of California is white. There's no color in the map, and that means that there's no drought. And there is some yellow, but just a small portion of California is in a drought still, according to the drought monitor. In Nevada, only about 23% of the state is still in a drought, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor. But that's isolated, particularly towards the extreme southeast portion of the state, towards Las Vegas. And the difference between our system and Las Vegas's system off the Colorado River is they are dependent on snowpack and runoff from the Rocky Mountains, where we are in the Sierra Nevada. And this map from the drought monitor really just illustrates the differences between the two regions. And our water supply really couldn't be different. Whereas, looks like most of Las Vegas area off, Lake Mead and the Colorado River is still in a fairly severe drought, according to the drought monitor. Whereas we in the Sierra Nevada, we are not in a drought. So according to TROA and the U.S. Drought Monitor, our region is no longer in drought. In this bar graph, you can see the current storage for all the reservoirs in the Truckee system and the percent of capacity. Again, all these reservoirs are going to fill and spill, except for Lake Tahoe, which will come very close. In this chart, just illustrating TMWA system storage, you can see TMWA's what's called POSW, our privately owned stored water between Donner and Independence Lakes. And you can also see TMWA's TROA storage, the TROA. So between our TROA storage and our privately owned storage, we currently have about 33,600 acre feet of water upstream, which is about 6% of all the water that's up there right now. Now, once Donner and Independence Lakes fill, we'll go into the summer with over 40,000 acre feet of storage, which is a nice position to be in. And we wouldn't be in such a good position if it wasn't for TROA. What is TROA? TROA basically allows TMWA the opportunity to store water in federally owned upstream reservoirs when we don't need it, and gives us the ability to release it when we do need it during droughts. It helps us augment our municipal drought supply. Some of the things TROA also did was it set the allocation between California and Nevada for water rights on the Truckee. It set rules for treated effluent, recycled water use. With enhanced flows, it benefits the fisheries below reservoirs. It improves spawning flows in the lower river below Derby Dam. Basically improves water quality all around and improves riparian habitat all around. So TROA has provided TMWA with a lot more operational flexibility than we had in the past without it. And TROA provides us this drought storage in years when we need it. We don't need it very often, but when we do, it's nice to know that we have it. Even though we don't need it very often, you can see in this bar graph, we've only used it 6 times in the last 40 years, but it sure is nice to know we have it when we need it. In this graph, you can see basically our actual sources of supply from the beginning of the year. The blue is surface water and the gray is groundwater. And this year, much like last year, is going to be a typical operational year for us, meaning no drought reserves will have to be used. It'll be a normal, typical operational year for us, where about 80 to 85% of our supply will be coming directly from the Truckee, and we bring on groundwater wells about this time of year to help us meet summertime peaking demand. In a normal year, TMWA only uses about 3% of the water coming down the Truckee from the state line. In a dry year, that ends up being about 9%. It's not that we're using that much less surface water, it's because there's less water in the river, so our portion of the pie that we use actually goes up. But it's a pretty small portion of the river that TMWA uses in any given year, as you can see. And our integrated approach to managing our water supply, we consider all of our sources of supply as part of a single system. It gives us a lot of flexibility in how we operate. basically any one of our sources of supply can meet customer demand alone, depending on the time of the year, but managed conjunctively, we've increased system redundancy and created a drought resilient water supply for our customers here in Northern Nevada. Through extensive planning, the acquisition and development of multiple sources of supply over the years, and this coordinated management of those sources, we'll continue to be able to provide our customers with a secure, reliable, drought-resistant, and cost-effective water supply for decades to come, despite the extreme variability in snowpack, runoff, upstream reservoir storage, and river flows from year to year, as you saw in the previous graphs. So customers can count on TMWA to continue to deliver the same reliable, high-quality supply of drinking water they've come to expect from us, regardless of the weather, every year. And here at TMWA, responsible water use is always promoted under our ongoing water conservation initiatives. The policies we've developed are designed to promote water resource sustainability. We employ a suite of demand management programs tailored around the seasonal outdoor watering habits of our customers. We really focus on the outdoor watering habits of our customers. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, our summertime demand is 4 times what our wintertime demand is. So we really focus on educating customers on outdoor watering and ways to save water, during that time of the year, and that benefits all of us. Water conservation is an essential component of our overall water management strategy every year, regardless of this water supply situation. Our demand management programs, where we encourage customers to modify their usage patterns through what are called water efficiency codes. TMWA has rules that prohibit the wasting of water. TMWA has now a fully metered system where customers pay for the water they actually use. Our rate structure is tiered, which incentivizes responsible water use, where the more water you use, you're going to pay more per gallon than someone who uses less water. The cornerstone of our demand management program is our assigned day watering. We have water usage reviews. We have extensive public outreach, community education, and the last several years, we've embarked on retrofitting all of our existing meters, which are with what are called smart meters in the system, AMI meters. These are meters where customers can actually log in on their smartphones and monitor their water usage, saving water. So right now, we're at about 46% of the system has already been retrofitted. So water conservation practices will still be enforced this year per our water efficiency code. And I know this is a big year, but this is just something that TMWA does year in and year out. So we're asking customers once again to follow their assigned day watering schedule. For odd addresses, water on Wednesday, Friday, Sundays. For even addresses, water on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. No watering on Mondays, and no watering between noon and 6. Avoid watering when it's windy. It's best to water early in the day, and use only what you need and avoid landscape runoff. This bar graph really illustrates how effective our demand management programs and our water conservation plan has been. Over the last 20 years, if you look at the green line, that is the per person per gallon per day usage. That has dropped about 30% over the last 20 years. Despite new houses and a bigger population we're serving, our demand, our gallon per person per capita per day has dropped by about 30%. And that's a direct reflection of our demand management program here at TMWA. So next Saturday, May 6th, at Idlewild Park in the California building is TMWA's annual Smart About Water Day. Basically everything you wanted to know about water under one roof. It's a family-oriented gathering to learn about how water in our region is managed. This will include information on water resources, growth, reusing water wisely, drinking water quality, and protecting source water. We'll also have a series of short presentations beginning at 11. We'll have another one of these state of water presentations. There'll be one on water recycling and purification technology. There'll be one on wildfire mitigation along the Truckee River. And there'll be a presentation on our latest hydroelectric power project. So to recap, this was a truly massive snowpack year. The water supply outlook for the region is excellent. This year, the Lake Tahoe Basin set an all-time record for snowpack, 242% of normal. We have significantly above average stream flow runoff projected for this spring. Lake Tahoe will come very close to filling. There's still an outside chance that it does fill. All the other upstream reservoirs in the system are expected to completely fill. And we're expecting normal Truckee River flows for at least the next 2 to 3 years because of these full upstream reservoirs. We're currently in a non-drought situation according to not only TROA, but the U.S. Drought Monitor. So for this year, normal water supply operations, standard conservation protocols will be in place. And we're asking customers to be mindful and continue watering on their assigned days and follow recommended no watering hours. And with that, I'll take questions, if there are any.
Thanks, Bill. As an aside, if you want to, in the Q&A, leave your email. We will, if you'd like a copy of this presentation emailed to you, we will go ahead and send it to you. So we are available for questions if you have any.
We have a question. I will from Ben Margio. Go ahead, Ben. I'm unmuting you.
Hi there. Thank you guys for doing this. Hopefully you can hear me. Can you just explain again, because I think some people will say, oh, you know, why do we have to conserve water this year? What's the reasoning for continuing to have all the conservation measures in effect, even in this crazy wet year that we've had?
It's just the right thing to do, man. You know, we always advocate wise water use. We don't want to see it wasted. And honestly, water that we're not diverting to meet customer demand goes on down to other users, particularly Pyramid Lake and the fisheries. So, you know, that's why we advocate wise water use year round, you know, in a drought or in a year like this.
I would echo, it's one of the reasons we're set up as we have the situation we're in. You know, many communities, when, you know, in the last decade, when they started realizing these, you know, extreme drought situations, they were just starting doing drought regulations. They were just starting to do some assigned day watering. We've been doing it since the mid 80s. We've been, it was voluntary in the mid 80s. We made it mandatory in the mid 90s. And that is why, you know, when we look back, you know, we look at the system now and we think, you know, we're in pretty great shape. We're doing a good job. But honestly, it's the people that came before us that set this stage for us to be in this great situation. And we want to continue that so that in the future, when someone looks back and says, yeah, the system's in good shape, it's been well managed. One of the reasons is we have a strong conservation ethic, if you will.
Another one from me, if I could. You guys, or you mentioned that all the upstream reservoirs are going to fill and spill. Spill meaning flooding. I mean, what could we see at, you know, Donner, Boca, Stampede, all those reservoirs? No
flooding. It's just that there's more water projected to come into the reservoirs than the reservoirs can hold, but that water will be metered out. There's not projected to be any kind of flooding on the main stem this spring, Ben. Flows are certainly going to get up there. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see them, you know, close to where they were in 2017, which, you know, they're just starting. Like I said earlier, you know, the high elevation snowpack really hasn't even begun to run off yet in earnest. But so flows as high as they are now in the Truckee, they're going to get 2 to 3 times higher than they are now. But that's really nothing for the main stem Truckee. But it's certainly nothing you know, you want to play around with. You know, we're not. TMWA isn't regulating, you know, water safety or anything like that, but you know, with these big flows, you want to be careful, you know, on the river this time of year.
It's going to be cold.
Yeah. But no flooding, Ben. I don't see it.
You mentioned that you expect normal Truckee River flows for at least the next couple of years. Could you just kind of elaborate on a year like this, so unprecedented, historic, 200 to 300+% of the snowpack? I mean, does this kind of, you kind of breathe a sigh of relief that that we'll be able to have enough water supply for the next? I mean, how many years does this really get us through with so much water like this year has?
Sure. Basically, with a full Lake Tahoe or close to full Lake Tahoe, we can expect 2 to 3 years of normal river flows. So regardless of what happens next winter or the winter after that. So, and that's just a generalization. Some years are more extreme than others, but typically, when you have a full reservoir system like we're going to have here by June, that's water supply for the next 2 to 3 years for this region. Regardless of what happens. So it's like a complete reset to the system, I would say. And we know where our water's coming from for the next 2 to 3 years. And so it's just good news all around.
Just to hit the nail on the head, you're saying, I mean, if we didn't get another drop of rain or, snowflake, we'd be set for 2 to 3 years with just the water that's already in the snowpack and in the reservoirs right now.
Yeah, that water in storage in the reservoirs in Lake Tahoe, Boca reservoirs used to provide what's called a required rate of flow at the California and Nevada state line. And so that required rate of flow will be met for the next 2 to 3 years, just on the projected amount of storage that's coming in between now and the end of June. And when that required rate of flow is met at the California and Nevada state line, all downstream water rights in Nevada are met. It's enough water so that everybody can exercise their water rights and operate normally.
Last one for me, if no one else is going to jump in. Anytime we have a new housing development approved in our region, the members of the public are saying, oh, we don't have the water, we don't have the water. I mean, do you guys do kind of projections for, obviously our reservoirs and our system is a finite amount of water, even in a good year like this, for the amount of population that this water supply can support?
Yeah, we do demand projections, and I would refer you back to our most recent version of our what's called our water resource plan. Every 5 years, we go through a process then where we look at population projections. We take the best science, do population projections, we do projections for the amount of new growth, and basically we create what's called a demand projection off of that. And so we look at the supply that we know we have, we look at the yield of that supply, and we look at if that supply can meet those projected demands over the next 5 or the next 20 years. And so, yeah, we look at that all the time, and we have more than enough supply to meet projected demand for decades to come. And we're actually, if you go back to that graph I was showing you about gallons per capita per day, that green wiggly line, on top of the bar graph, you can see that our gallons per person per day are, is actually declining. It actually dropped about 30% over the last 20 years. We expect that trend to continue. That the houses they're building these days have less turf, less irrigated acreage, more high efficient plumbing inside the house. So houses are they're building smaller houses on smaller footprints with less irrigation, and so everything's just more efficient, and so we expect that trend to continue.
Any other questions?
Well, thanks, Ben, for asking all those questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'll be calling you guys when I plant my grass seed, because I know I need a variance for that, but that's probably not your job, Bill.
Yeah,
It actually is.
Anytime.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I do have one question in the Q&A. Assuming next winter could be very dry and have little snow, is this water supply expected to last us more than a year, and how long?
Yeah, I'll just echo what I just told Ben. Basically, with a full reservoir system, we can expect a normal supply or normal river flows for at least the next 2 to 3 years. So with a full reservoir system, we know that the required rate of flow at California-Nevada state line will be met. And when that's met, all the downstream water rights on the Nevada side are met. And so TMWA would have, we would be in normal water supply operations for the next 2 to 3 years, regardless of what happens next winter. Because we have that series, that extensive series of reservoirs upstream, I would say this region is very fortunate to have that. Not only do we have TROA, that new operating agreement, which allows us to store, unexercised water rights in these federally owned reservoirs upstream when we don't need it, and have that as a drought supply. First and foremost, we have these reservoirs which are already built, and many river systems in the West don't have that series of reservoirs. And so extremely fortunate to live in this area. Just compare and contrast our region to the southeast portion of the state, where 90% of the supply comes from Lake Mead, which continues to decline in elevation. And so just very fortunate here. Different series of reservoirs and different system.
I don't have any more questions in the Q&A. So,
Everybody knew all this.
Well, if anybody ever has any questions, we're always open. We're always willing to give the information. We figure it's in your best interest to have accurate information, and it's in our best interest. So it's been a good partnership throughout the years, and we wish for it to continue that way. With that, I guess since we don't have any other questions,
Signing off.
we are signing off.
See y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.